Hello viewers, it's Super GT here. Welcome to some more iRacing action for you. This is the Virtual Racing School Mazda MX-5 Cup around Laguna, Seca. It's a 10 lapper, so it's going to last around 20 minutes or so. I didn't bother qualifying. I thought I'd rather just stay at the back and see where I can get to. Bit of a different challenge for me in this race. So the lights go green, and in anticipation, there we go. Off the line pretty well. The guy on the right hand side there not getting a good launch, and I'm through past him already, chasing this guy in the green car. Now, can we filter our way through a couple of positions into the first turn and look at the inside? He's going to brake very early, so I'm going to get that position from him, maintaining a steady course on the inside of the corner there, so he can't come back at me. A couple of guys wide here, so just going to try and pick a side to go on. Go to the left, the normal racing line. One guy there going up the inside, kicking up a bit of dust, but he's through past the guy ahead of me. So in the previous video I asked for lots of tips basically on how to improve my technique. Now the clear thing from my viewers commenting on my previous video was that my braking technique was completely out. Now I wasn't exactly sure on the brakes, how the braking works basically, as stupid as that sounds. So I was just hammering the brake 100%, and I couldn't feel the ABS kicking in. I guess my setup isn't the best in my defence, but I didn't know that the ABS was kicking in and it wasn't slowing me down as quick as it should be. So obviously I had to brake a little bit less, threshold braking, braking below the threshold of the ABS so it doesn't kick in and slow down your braking. So that is the main technique I was trying to improve upon in this video. Almost going a bit oversteery there, almost spinning out through that turn, going over the curb there again, almost spinning out once again. But in trying to improve my braking technique, I actually completely forgot to start accelerating on the downshifts. I completely forgot to start blipping the throttle when downshifting and braking. So in improving one technique, I completely forgot another. I disregarded another technique. So that definitely needs to improve. I kind of just completely forgot. But then I think I could notice an improvement in the braking. I just need to get consistency. In my defense, my pedals are only the basic Thrustmaster TX, and I couldn't get much sensation through the pedal. And again, I guess I could change my settings to make them a little bit different. But if I really wanted to pursue a decent career in iRacing, it would be most logical to try and get a better setup in terms of the pedals. And then we are going around the outside of this guy into turn 4, I believe it is. He's got the inside line, but I'm going to hold my outside line, and now it's just a battle of who can get on the power earliest. And it's turned out to be me, so I've gone through past him. Now we started this race in 11th, so we've gained a couple of positions here, in 7th now. A guy wide there on the right hand side, so we've gained another position there, going up to 6th position. As you go into the corkscrew, a very hard turn for me to get right, aiming over that curb on the right hand side. The guy behind really closing in quite a lot on the brakes there. So again, my braking technique clearly isn't perfect just yet. Almost going for a bit of oversteer there. Actually, yes, a bit too much. Luckily, I don't spin off. Managed to correct it just in time. We both go over that massive red curb. You don't want to touch that. There is very nice camber on the inside of that turn though, so you do really want to make the most of it. Obviously it took too much and clattered the inside curb there. But on the exit we can get in the slipstream of this guy, and let's see if we can get a move onto the inside, or well, he's just going to drive straight off, so that's easy enough. If only all overtakes were like that, they just drive themselves off the track for you. So we have a gap ahead. Now my braking technique into there was a little bit too early, so just trying to get some consistency in my left foot here. It's quite tricky to get exactly right. I'm so used to it in Forza, doing it on my finger, getting about 80% of the movement down, and I can do that fairly consistently. But it's a whole different ball game, iRacing, trying to get that into a pedal, trying to translate my finger movement into my foot. Quite hard to do consistently. I'm going to move ahead to lap number 5, so nearly halfway through the race we will be at the end of this lap. This lap I kind of settled down a little bit. and then we had two guys colliding up ahead, and I've gone through into 4th, which is fairly solid given that I didn't qualify, started 11th, and then have gained 7 positions as a result of others crashing into each other. And now that is an aspect of racing. You don't always have to be the fastest person. Sometimes just staying clear of trouble, being consistent, that is just as important. And in this race that has transpired to be true, as a couple of guys have crashed into each other. I've just kept my nose clean and tried not to get involved in anything, and that has meant I've in a net gain of 7 positions in 4th now. Looking at the back of 3rd, he's a couple of seconds ahead, 3.5 seconds ahead, constantly monitoring that gap. Perhaps looking at it a little bit too much. I shouldn't look at it as often as I do. I should be focusing on my racing line, hitting my marks, hitting my brake markers, hitting my turning in markers, and hitting my throttle markers on the exit of the turn. But instead, looking at that a little bit too much, should learn not to do that so much. Probably a bad habit that a lot of us have in racing games, or simulations as I should say. So there we go, 5 laps left, we're in 4th position. Let's run with half of this lap and let's see how I can do. I did settle down into this race a little bit better once I didn't have someone immediately behind me. I think I do get pressured a little bit in this game, a little bit more than I would do in other games or other simulations. Now I'm just going to call it a game because it's easier. I know it's a simulation and I shouldn't call it a game. I'm just going to call it that. I'm not treating it as a game, you know, this is a serious simulation. You shouldn't come on here just for a laugh. It is a bit more serious than that, but I'm just going to call it a game because it's easier for me to do that. But then into this turn, getting hooked up with the apex a little bit earlier there, a bit nicer than previous laps. The advantage of doing that around this turn, around this track especially, a lot of the corners have very nice camber on the inside. As you can see that it dips away on the inside. The guy ahead there going a little bit wide, and he's gone down to 2.3 seconds ahead, so I've gained a second compared to a lap ago. So into the corkscrew, getting the brakes done nicely there, and then looking at those trees ahead, because you can't see the apex on the right hand side as you go down the corkscrew, so you have to reference yourself with those trees up ahead, and they go a little bit wide there. I do get a warning up ahead at the top of the screen. We've only got 2 out of 17, so we're okay. And then into the last turn, I did lose maybe 3 or 4 attempts there on the exit, trying to push too hard to gain on the guy ahead. So I'm going to run with lap number 10 here. This is the last lap of the race. The race very much settled down after lap 5, and the gaps stayed quite constant. But overall, pretty pleased with the race. In the end, I did settle down, and this lap was my fastest one. So let's go on a run of Laguna Seca. It's going to be a 1:43 lap, which I was fairly pleased with. I think the guy on pole did a 1:42 in qualifying, but most of the grid did a 1:43. So I was fairly pleased to be able to lap on the same pace as most people, given that I only did about 15 minutes practice. Perhaps not enough for the track, should have done a bit more, but I did want to get into a race and test exactly how I could do. So I think I did a lot better in this race when I just calmed down a little bit and focused on what I had to do, focused on my braking, focused on my accelerating, just tried to keep it a lot more smoother. I think when you try to push too hard in this game and try to force the issue, the car doesn't like it, and you end up making more mistakes, and you are more likely to crash. At least I am anyway. I think I just need to calm down a little bit, be a little bit more smooth, and my lap times will come to me that way instead. So coming through the last couple of corners here, it's going to be a 4th position, which I think is pretty decent from where I started. It kind of shows you that you don't have to be the fastest or most consistent, just have to keep your nose clean, and then you'll do alright. And on that lap, hitting most of the apex actually, I was fairly pleased with that final lap in the end. Shame I couldn't do that more often. Should have done that for all 10 laps really. But then over the line, there we go, finishing 4th. Pretty good result if you ask me. Not the most perfect race for me. Need to still improve my braking technique. Need to improve my blipping on the throttle as well. Didn't do it at all in that race. So need to get doing that again. I think it's just mainly a case of not getting on this simulator enough. I need to get myself on here a bit more often. Maybe practice every other day minimum, and then to keep my technique up a little bit better. So there are the final standings. Finishing 12 seconds behind the leader, which isn't too bad for me. In the previous race I was more like about 45 seconds behind after 25 minutes, which is clearly a lot worse. So I would attribute my slightly improved braking technique to some of that. I think that's a good measurement though for someone who isn't going to win races all the time, to measure how far you are from the leader. That's a good indicator of how well you're doing. So once again, that is going to bring a close to the video. So as always, please let me know any tips you have for me, anything I'm doing wrong. There's probably quite a lot if I'm honest. But that is going to bring a close to the video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. As always, hit the like button if you did like this one. Subscribe if you'd like to see more of the same. And I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.